Another lovely day in Pasadena. I wanted to do this video today because I was asked a question not too long ago about how do we control our love, our attachment towards someone we care about so much, be it a parent towards the child that is going off to, let's say, college, university, or saying goodbye to someone we care about so much, wherever their journeys might be taking them. So it's often very difficult for us to kind of negotiate, on one hand, this intense love we feel towards this person, but at the same time, this sense of insecurity and fear that comes from just the fact that, oh my God, what am I going to do right after? Once they have left the house, once they are no more here, once, let's say, I finalize it, or we finalize it, you know, the ending of a relationship, or just the next phase of our relationship. Perhaps someone needs to move to the other side of the country, or the continent, or the world. So as I was listening to this person convey to me how they felt about, you know, this dilemma, this paradox, I couldn't help but see the image of a chimney, or a fireplace, or an oven, or even a candle in the house. This source of fire, but at the same time force of life. This presence of life-giving energy that a fireplace, a warm fireplace, could give us, especially in the cold winter or in the dark of the night. So how do we negotiate that? How do we be okay with the sense of being attached, loving, and on the other hand, not being burnt? So as I was getting this image of a fireplace or a candle that keeps the place lit up and dispels the darkness, I saw how it was very similar. I mean, we use common sense when we are lighting up a candle, or lighting up a furnace, or turning on the oven, or the fireplace. I remember years ago when my family and I used to live in Lebanon, the power would go out, and in the cold winters, and we didn't have a central heating. We didn't have any heat source except for this small butane gas heater slash oven slash toaster, and it was like small in capacity, but at the same time, I remember how its bright orange yellowish color would light up the room. And we also would have candles. Obviously my mom and dad would turn on some another source of like a kerosene lamp or something like that. But we would just use that as a source of heat, also as a form of a toaster where my sister, my family, my grandmother and us, all of us, would wait in turn to bake the cheese and the bread. That, you know, we would put the cheese inside the bread and we would put it on top of this stove. But we knew very well if we got too close, it would burn us. So here was an example of something that a human being had figured out to make use of, to face the challenges and obstacles in life, as well as the life-giving resources that are around us. And relationships are very much important in our lives. They are life-giving. Our nervous systems require being in safe relationships, having loving relationships. So it behooves upon us to pause and say, okay, I can keep this blessing that I have, whether it's this child that a parent has raised lovingly, carefully, making sure you've given them all the advice in the world, all the love that your heart can muster, and all the, precautionary measures that you thought in the best of your judgment, like, I wish I had been told this when I was your age type of a scenario. And you've given all that to them. Any further would be like reaching into that oven, reaching into that furnace and burning your hands. So I guess my encouragement would be similar to what my elders, my parents, my grandmother would caution me against, to not reach too close, otherwise my fingers would get burnt. From that very warm and very highly appreciated heater, this butane gas heater slash oven slash toaster slash light source. Sometimes as we grow up, sometimes as life's challenges, as they come knocking on our doors, and we find ourselves in positions where we say, oh, I want a do-over, I want to repeat this, I want to make sure that the second time around I'll be better able to face these challenges. And usually relationships, they're always going to be coming through the door, as long as we don't have the door locked, which is something that I always encourage my patients and students to do. But keep the handle on the inside. Keep the handle of the door inside, but make sure it's not locked either, because that would be inhibiting life's possibilities, grand possibilities, from coming and knocking on your door. However, with this do-over, we often, in many cases, especially with parents, for example, loving, caring parents, we start to visualize, we start to, in fact, superimpose, and imagine that do-over is taking place through the lives of our children. And that is something that I would always caution people against, because the child, this other human being, even though they might have come from you, they nevertheless are not you. So the best at that moment you can do is just simply make sure you're fully available there for them, but not make it all about yourself or your own desire to get that piece of bread with the cheese inside. It's toasting a certain way. Somebody else might like it differently. And that somebody else often is, yes, from you. They have your 23 chromosomes and they have your spouse's 23 chromosome, their parents. But ultimately, they're not yours. Just like the fire is not yours. It's there for a purpose. So even though it has this love, even though it has this life-giving energy, that potential, keep a healthy distance. And remember that you're here for you, ultimately. Despite what you've been told, despite what you have been thinking, that I'm here for my child, I'm here for my loved ones. That is kind of idealistic, that's kind of even romantic, but it's not true. What is true is the reality of your experience. You came alone and you're going to go alone. Meanwhile, what you do during that journey, that's up to you. You can truly change the world. That's how I understand things to be anyhow, as I spent my days on this planet. As far as the Dhamma is concerned, with the Brahmaviharas, for example, I should have gotten a stand for this because my arms are getting tired. As far as the Dhamma is concerned, we have the 4 Brahmaviharas, the divine abidings, the higher qualities of mind, especially in relation to others. We have Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekkha, loving kindness, compassion, altruistic or sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Whenever the Buddha gave instructions on any of these qualities or any of the virtues that can truly transform a person's life, he always made sure that he gave it along with a set of other equally important and supplemental elements, supplemental other virtues. So, using the example of a person feeling a tremendous connection, tremendous attachment, in fact, to a loved one, can be seen as the shadowy part of, let's say, loving kindness. Or when we are giving so much of ourselves to the people we serve, whether it's we're volunteering, whether it's in the case of for my day job, I'm a psychotherapist, for example. So if I don't have those healthy boundaries, it's very easy for me to fall into this shadowy side of compassion. And there's a term that we use in helping professions, we call it vicarious trauma, where about the trauma of the individual that I'm supposed to be helping seeps into my world, and I take their trauma with me. It happens a lot with nurses, with medical professionals, with all helping professions. Plenty of psychotherapists suffer from this, unless they have this healthy boundary, the safe distance from the furnace. That healthy boundary indicates that there needs to be maintaining that healthy boundary indicates that there needs to be a level of discernment, a level of wisdom. And that's what the Buddha used in the form of upekkha, or equanimity. Many people have thought, or even asked me, meditation students have asked me if isn't equanimity some kind of indifference? And it's anything but indifference, because it is the capacity to discern itself. Discerning when there is too much of compassion, when there is too much of loving kindness, where you're seeping into the other person's world in wanting to try to help them. I know my teacher says about loving kindness, metta, is to have the capacity to love the person fully, wholeheartedly, but allowing them to face whatever they are facing, which is amazing. Now, you're doing whatever you can, of course, to try to ease the other person's suffering. However, we have to allow ourselves to say to ourselves that is nevertheless their suffering. That is their journey. However, it's not standing there on the corner and saying, sorry, it's you, so I'm kind of glad that... No, none of that. That would be indifference, which has nothing to do with the Brahmaviharas, which has nothing to do with loving kindness. However, we have to maintain that balance of knowing how far to step from the candle, which is lighting up this whole room in this darkness that is now dispelled thanks to that candle. However, in showing our appreciation, our affection towards it, we don't go ahead and get too close to it, otherwise we will burn our fingers. We might even shut out the light, turn off the candle, turn off the switch. And so there is the necessity of wisdom all throughout. So yes, it's not necessarily just the ability to be able to be a loving, compassionate parent or a loving partner. We also need to have the wisdom to ensure its proper function, because ultimately we have a responsibility to make sure that the loving kindness is running strong and powerful enough and is not depleting us. I often have told students, meditation students, and even patients, how it's important to make sure that when you have done an act of loving kindness, compassion, or when you felt that joy, as you're walking away from it, how are you feeling? Is there any sense of feeling drained? Any sense of being, now I need to go and give myself a time out. Now I need to go ahead and give myself some love. If that's the case, then that was not loving kindness. If that's the case, then that was not truly compassionate, at least applied wisely. Which means, in essence, that in order for loving kindness to be applied properly, it needs the element of wisdom, and it needs to also stay. There is a tremendously powerful residual effect of loving kindness even after the individual that was the recipient of the loving kindness from us has left the building. If they're no longer there in our presence, but there's a tremendous sense of fullness, not a lack, fullness, then we have been utilizing all the Brahmaviharas in a proper way. So when we are loving, when we are caring, when we feel attached, let's bring in wisdom, because attachment itself is suffering. I've said this many times in different talks, in different settings, but the fact remains. So long as there is attachment, there is a sense of wanting something back, a return. Either maybe we want to have the person still stick around some more. And that's one of the reasons why, as the person is leaving us physically, not there anymore, with us, in this time and space where we occupy, then we feel this tremendous sense of this terrible experience of voidness, of lack. And there is no sense of lack in loving kindness. Metta is full. It's full of life. And metta is, yes, it had this other individual or individuals that it was radiating itself towards. However, the moment they are not there, guess what? It is completely warming and heating itself up with loving kindness, with compassion, with joy, with equanimity. It's just like the candle. It's all lit up. So long as we are in its own vicinity and we're getting some of its bright benefits, sure, come in. But is the candle, is that furnace still latching on to me as I'm leaving the room? Don't go. Don't go. Come here. It doesn't do that. Yes, we're talking about inanimate objects. However, the fact remains, these higher qualities of loving kindness, of being there for another human being, requires our common sense, requires our dedicated wisdom in applying them. So I hope this set of words helps. We're in this together. This samsara, this round or cycles of rebirth or existences that we go through. Each of us experiences life in different ways. However, the common denominator remains the not knowing and the not willingness to learn and to know, and most importantly, to apply what is being sought after. I know in my work, I always tell people, I can only give you 100% of the 50%. The other 50 has to come from you. You, the patient, you, the client, you, the individual. The teacher, the same thing. The teacher will give you, a good teacher will give you everything they have, but even that everything happens to be no more than 50%. The other has to come from you, the student. And each of us are our own students in our lives. And our experiences can turn us into teachers in our own right. But thanks to discernment, and thanks to understanding and appreciating and not shunning and not turning away from the realities and the obstacles and the challenges of life. Instead, to look at them as opportunities for more discernment, so that we keep looking for those opportunities to give love without feeling that something from us is going to be taken away as the next moment arrives and we no longer may find ourselves with that special someone. You will always have the awareness to realize that there's always been that someone, and that someone is the person that you look in the mirror and you see, which is one of the reasons why I always insist, make sure you smile. We don't smile enough, folks, okay? So, wishing you truckloads of joy and loving kindness and compassion, but in the presence, the ever-presence of discerning wisdom to know how to apply those high qualities of the mind and to change the world from oneself, starting from here, not from there, from here, always. This comes first. Okay? Starting with a smile. Okay? Until next time.